Inside college football, CBS Sports Network has a packed lineup of college football games this Saturday, highlighted by the 3-0 Louisville Cardinals, led by the great Lamar Jackson, going up against Marshall, the Thundering Herd, Stoney, at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Houston Nutt joins us now. Houston, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. How y'all doing?
We are great. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Let's start with you. Let's start with Louisville. On Saturday, which result surprised you more? Louisville destroying Florida State at home, or Ohio State going into Oklahoma and doing what they did to the Sooners?
Whew, that's two good questions. I'm going to lean towards Louisville because I never expected 63-20, not against the Seminoles, but you got to give it to Louisville. Lamar Jackson, of course, unbelievable, so outstanding. But Louisville's defense probably not getting enough credit. Well, they're really athletic, very, very good. But to win 63-20, I'm going to lean with Louisville and Lamar Jackson.
Now, he's getting all the hype, obviously, well-deserved for the Heisman. We've seen, quote-unquote, September Heismans before. Was it Kenny Hill, the quarterback for Texas A&M? We've had some around here, Denard Robinson. How legit is Lamar Jackson?
I think he's very legit because of this, guys. Last year, probably didn't know the playbook, kind of dropped back, just took off running. We all know he can run. But now you see his eyes, you see him going through the reads, being really deliberate and going from A to B to C. And then if it's not there, he takes off running. And then you put in the design runs along with that. That is a double dose of hard to stop. And it puts a tremendous pressure on the defensive coordinator to say, okay, how are we going to do this now? We're going to load the box and stop this guy from running all over the world, and then he beats you one-on-one with some throws. So it's double jeopardy right there. So I just think he's legit, guys, because of his arm and then to me the maturity. He's really matured from last year, and then you add on top of that the wheels.
Not to look too far ahead, but since we're talking about Louisville, did you ever think we live in a day where a game between Louisville and Houston might decide who goes to a college football playoff?
Well, I tell you, that's something. That's something. No. To answer your question, no. But you never know. Now, if you look at last year in September, and this is September, you look at last year of the polls, there's a different, if you went through 1 through 4 just from last year, it was different than November. So still a lot of things can happen, but to answer your question, yeah, that's surprising.
We're talking to Houston Nutt, longtime college football coach, now an analyst for CBS Sports Network on Inside College Football. Let's talk a little Michigan State if we could, Coach. Around here, there is a perception that Michigan State does not get the respect it deserves nationally. Now, I'm not going to ask you to have a fictional conversation, but when you look at the college football landscape and you look at the guys coaching this game like you did, where does Michigan State and what Mark D'Antonio's done here kind of stack up with the rest of college football in your mind?
Every single year, I think nobody talks about Michigan State. Whether he's not flashy enough, whether he's not climbing trees or going to a satellite camp.
Gee, who would you be referring to there? Yeah.
Yeah. But my point is, he's such a good coach, and he has this formula, and his DNA is exactly what we all expect. What is it? Well, it's toughness. It's an attitude. It's a kind of a quiet, let's get in the stadium, nobody gives us a chance attitude, and all of a sudden he's beating up everybody. And you just got to give it to Coach D'Antoni, his team, his formula, the DNA that he puts out there. It's just awesome. And we don't give him enough respect, and we need to.
Do you mentioned the guy who climbs trees in the satellite camps, of course, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh. If you had to pick one, Harbaugh or D'Antonio, who's coaching your team?
Whew. Well, look, I go back when I was at Murray State. I coached against Jack Harbaugh, and so I have a lot of respect for the Harbaughs. I love the way they coach. I love their hard nose and their toughness, and so that's a very tough question to me because I respect what Jim Harbaugh does as well. But Coach D'Antoni, I just feel like, overall what I love so much about him is he just has this quiet demeanor about himself that he goes about business. He loves coaching football. I got to know him when I went on the Nike trip with him and his wife, my wife and I, and got to know him there. And so you know what he's about. And so if you put me on the spot, I'd probably lean that way. But I have a lot of respect for the Harbaughs.
Let me ask you this, Coach. If we'd had this conversation 5 years ago, SEC, what they've done, what they continue to do. I don't want to say that they're not doing it anymore. They're the SEC, and the Big Ten were miles apart. It seems to be changing. We talked last week with Gary Danielson, who I know you know, and he said basically Urban Meyer going to Ohio State changed everything because Urban Meyer upped the ante for the entire Big Ten conference. Even though D'Antonio was already here and brought along Harbaugh, is that your view as well? Did the migration of Urban from the South to the North, did that kind of change the landscape of college football?
I think it did because of this, recruiting. If you go back when he first got there, it was kind of, I guess, a gentleman's agreement. If somebody was committed, you kind of stayed away. Not so fast. He turned, when somebody's committed, it means he's turned it up a notch. He's going to see how he can change the 18-year-old's mind. So, yes, it's the 24/7 recruiting with the competition, this competitive spirit that's at a completely different level that we're used to in the South. That he took to the North.
Would it be fair to say that the Big Ten East with Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan, among others, is as good as the SEC West?
It is right now because I'm looking at the quarterback. I think the SEC's down. I think it's really down this year. And the reason I say that is because of quarterback play. Just in my years there, had the privilege of coaching the league 14 years. I think the SEC's down. And, again, I go back. I think athletically, the defensive front, I'd always put the SEC up there at the top. But overall, for his team, because of the quarterback play, I'd probably lean the Big Ten.
Look at the rest of college football. We've talked about some of the big boys and certainly the Big Ten schools of interest to us here, Houston. Is there a team maybe in the teens, an undefeated team, or even maybe a team that's got one loss already that you're keeping your eye on and you're saying, listen, don't sleep on those guys because when all is said and done, they might be one of the last four teams standing?
Well, again, it's September, so there's probably a few. The one thing that surprised me, I think Houston is a team defensively. They probably don't get enough credit. I think they're for real. With Greg Ward, if he's healthy, I think you got to keep your eye on him. I think it'll be really hard for them to get to the playoffs, but you got to keep your eye on them. I have a lot of respect for Stanford, Washington. Those two teams you got to keep your eye on. Again, I just think it's so early. Again, SEC, I think they're going to continue to get better. A little down right now, but I think they'll get better towards the end of this thing. Alabama, to me, is a level above everybody because they can beat you in so many ways, offense, defense, and special teams. And so that's why we love this game so much because you don't know because the ball bounces funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, we were talking about that earlier. Last year, Michigan State went on the road to Nebraska. They lost a heartbreaker of a game, and a lot of people around here assumed they'd been eliminated, and everything started falling in their favor. They beat Ohio State at Ohio State. Next thing you know, they were one of the last four teams standing. Right, no question about it, and that's what's so exciting. And you hit the right one. I mean, everybody really counted Ohio State out at one time. I can't remember which game was it. Virginia Tech, the year that Virginia Tech beat them early on yes,
the year.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then look what happens. And so you're going to have one or two of those games where everybody's kind of counting them out, and you look up in November, hey, where'd they come from?
Mm-hmm.
Question about recruiting, and I know most of the schools do it now, and it just seems so absurd to me, where kids in ninth grade, and there's been a couple of examples, even eighth grade kids are getting offers. Now, I know they're not binding. Isn't there something the NCAA should do, maybe not extend offers till after they're done playing in their junior year or something?
Yeah, I think so. I think it gets out of hand. You start offering fifth graders, sixth graders, seventh graders, eighth graders. It just gets out of hand. It's ridiculous. And then all of a sudden, you'll get into it with a young man breaks his leg, and or now the college decides he doesn't want to give him a scholarship. You start having all those wars. It's ridiculous. It's too early. And then the young man needs to concentrate on school and trying to get better. He's just a baby. So I'm with you on that. I really think they ought to do something. It's just too early to start offering people at that young of an age.
Houston Nutt, college football analyst for CBS Sports Network on Inside College Football. Thanks for your time today, Houston. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Hey, Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, there he is from CBS Sports Network. 3-0 Louisville takes on Marshall. 8 o'clock Saturday night on CBS Sports Network.
I'm glad he had such a good time at a coaches convention with the D'Antoni family.
The D'Antones are they're good people. They're absolutely good
it's
people.
Unbelievable.
It never ends. 97 won the ticket.